Hi guys, Deb Acker here, back with another video, and the title of today's video is how to go all in on your life. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm an intuitive coach and I work mainly with women to help them to heal their past, heal their childhood patterns, specifically around abandonment and the abandonment that can show up when we have physically and or emotionally unavailable parents, right? And so oftentimes, right, we're not even aware we're not really all in on our lives, right? So notice, a lot of times we're telling ourselves like we are all in our life, right? So I want you to notice, is there a desire in your life, something that you really want, but that you haven't pursued, right? Or you haven't been able to make happen, right? So let me give you some examples. One way that this can show up is, say, for instance, there's a job you want, or you've wanted to work for yourself, right? And you're not pursuing that, or you're not going all in on that. That can be one example. Another example is say there's, you've been wanting to have a serious relationship, right? And, you haven't pursued the healing, or you haven't changed, the course of action that you're taking to actually heal maybe the relationship pattern that's causing you not to have success in relationships. Another way this can show up is with our bodies, right? And us not taking care of our bodies and really going all in on our health, right? So, notice which ones of those that you maybe can relate to, and or if there's something else that pops in around a desire you have in your life that you're not fully pursuing. And know first and foremost that a lot of times this roots in and stems in from when we're kids, right? As everything does. If you've been watching some of these videos, that is, a lot of times we're not really that aware, right, of the fact that something, that something that happened in our childhood is actually creating something in our adulthood. And that's part of what I love to do in these videos, right, is to help you to make that correlation so you can start to recognize that connection and actually start to totally and truly change it, right? But, this one happens to root in a couple of different ways. Say, for instance, your parents had gotten divorced when you were a kid, right? And one of your parents was modeling for you that they weren't all in on the relationship with you. What you might have made up was that love equals not being all in, right? Or love equals not being all in on my life, right? And so you might be taking that into your current everyday reality, your current everyday world, and creating that. So that's one way that can get stemmed in or get rooted in. Another way that this can get rooted in is that, if you grew up, say, for instance, with a single parent, right, you might have shut down your needs. So you might have gone into the practice of shutting down what you wanted or shutting down your needs. And so you don't even know what it is that you want. And you can't go all in on your life if you don't actually recognize or know what your needs are, right? If you're disconnected from those, how can you pursue them? You can't, right? And so how we start to shift this, right? How do we start to shift this? One of the biggest ways that we start to shift this is we start to love ourselves more, right? Because if you grew up with physically or emotionally unavailable parents in some way, you might have made up that something that they did or weren't doing was your fault. And in some way or another, you disconnected from yourself and you made yourself wrong and you stopped loving yourself, right? So, I could ask to many people, right, do you love yourself? And most of the people, and before I started this work, my answer would have been the same thing, right? I would have said, yeah, I do. But for instance, if I'm not willing to pursue, a desire that I have, if I'm not willing to seek a new course of action, to actually heal my relationship pattern, there can be a gap in, or really an opportunity for us to love ourselves more, right? So just notice if you can relate to that. So how we start to shift this is we start to love ourselves more, right? So, really with this, starting to make conscious choices to move towards the life that we are truly desiring, right? So this can be something as simple, say for instance, you've been wanting to work for yourself, right? That can be something as simple as literally just taking one small step, right? Even just simply say for instance, you're wanting to write a book, right? Simply writing one page of your book every day, right? Or one day a week, right? Just starting to take one small step to say, okay, I want to be a writer and I'm finally going to take the action to create that. That's one example. Let's talk about relationships, right? Again, if you have a relationship pattern and it keeps showing up over and over and over, and say you've been going to therapy, that was actually my story, right? I was going to therapy for years, right? And basically had awareness of why I was creating, you know, the relationships that I was creating, but nothing was changing. And, you know, my friends and family would lovingly suggest to me to try something different, but in those moments of my life, I wasn't ready until I was ready. But another way that we can really love ourselves is by being willing to actually take the action necessary, right, to make a new choice to shift, you know, for instance with this, to shift, you know, the pattern and the relationships we're attracting, right? So know that that's another way for us to love ourselves, right? If we take the example of with your body and with your health, right? Noticing what you are or aren't doing for yourself that maybe is impacting your health. And again, making that decision to just make one small action, right? One small step in your life to start to shift this, right? Whether it's exercising 1 to 2 days a week, like for 20 minutes, right? Whether it's, you know, just saying, okay, I'm going to put one, you know, green juice in my diet every day, right? It doesn't have to change anything else. I'm going to eat sugar. I'm going to eat all the other things, but at least I'm going to add this one level of eating more vegetables in that aspect, right? So, you know, those are just a few examples. The other thing that I want to touch on a lot of times that can come up with self-love is self-love can also be where, you know, we actually start to choose ourselves and put ourselves first, right? And all of the examples I just gave, you know, can be a version of that, but really being willing to honor your needs, to honor what it is that you want and to go after that, right? So being willing to say, okay, you know what? I agreed to do this thing with my friend and I'm not into that, right? I don't want to do it. So I'm going to actually cancel on her instead of just saying, well, my word matters more than the way that I'm feeling in this moment, or matters more than me putting myself first. So that's today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're enjoying these videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And you can find out more information at deboraacker.com, including my Catalyst call where we could talk about where you are, where you want to be, and how I can help you to get there. So until next time, have a great rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.